Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Englund, and I'm one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westband Cable Channel 17, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. If you are enjoying your NACTV experience, please consider supporting us by either donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or at nactv@wcgwave.ca. Neepawa Banner and Press, Friday, May the 2nd, 2025. Dan Mazier, re-elected MP in Riding Mountain. Conservative candidate wins locally while Liberals claim a national minority, by Owen Devereaux. With the celebrations for Dan Mazier were a tad subdued in Minnedosa on election night, they were still very much genuine and heartfelt for Riding Mountain's Conservative incumbent. Mazier earned a trip back to Ottawa on Monday, April 28th by amassing 28,165 votes to win re-election within the electoral district. That amount was 67.1% of the local votes cast. That figure is an increase of almost 8% from his 2021 election tally. Meanwhile, local Liberal candidate Terry Hayward finished second with 9,524 votes, 22.7%, and Andrew Maxwell of the NDP picked up 3,146 votes, 7.4%. Jim Oliver of the People's Party and Liz Clayton with the Green each received 1.3% of the vote. Mazier was one of the 144 Conservative candidates to have won in the federal election. While that is one of the party's best results nationally in almost 40 years, it was still not enough to catch the Liberal Party of Canada, who won a minority government with 169 elected. Dan Mazier held his election result viewing party at the Royal Canadian Legion No. 138 in Minnedosa, where a small but extremely vocal group of supporters gathered. As the results from across the nation poured in, there were ebbs and flows to the energy within the building. The loudest part of the night, however, was when the Riding Mountain District was declared for Mazier. Soon after securing the win, Mazier, along with his wife Lee, thanked the campaign team and all the voters for their support. Mazier elaborated on the point, promising to continue to battle for everyone within the riding. Tonight, the people of Riding Mountain have spoken. From Swan River to Treeherne, from Minnedosa to Dauphin, rivers to Russell, and every small town, village, and farm in between, stated Mazier. This campaign has been about fighting for rural Canadians. And tonight, rural Canadians made their voices heard, loud and clear. They want a fighter for their community in Parliament. As well, Mazier expressed his gratitude for the people of Riding Mountain for putting their trust in him, noting that representing them in the House of Commons has been the greatest honor of his life. Speaking later with the Banner and Press, Mazier expanded upon the points made within his speech. He said an important part of the campaign's success this time came down to getting out there across the entire riding and not taking anything for granted. Throughout the campaign, I met with thousands of people, knocked on thousands of doors. We put in the effort and did not take a single vote for granted, expressed Mazier. You have to meet the people where they are, in their communities, and listen to what they're going through. It's not about the Ottawa bubble. It's about real people putting food on the table. As for what the people he met had to say, Mazier said the conversation for this campaign was all about affordability. He indicated that the worry from most is not just their next paycheck, but for future for themselves, their children, and their grandchildren. While Dan Mazier said the Conservatives did expand their support in Riding Mountain, there were still very positive signs to be seen for the local Liberal Party. Candidate Terry Hayward's 9,321 total votes near doubled the amount of support the left-leaning party had received in 2021. In a conversation with the Brandon Sun on Tuesday, April 29th edition, and Hayward noted that he was feeling positive about the signs of local progress for the party. There has been a movement for support in the Liberals here. Maybe not enough for the change we were hoping for, but we have raised the level of support, Hayward told the Sun. The Banner and Press was also able to contact Hayward before its publication deadline. Hayward thanked all the candidates who put their names forward in Riding Mountain this election and congratulated Dan Mazier on his election. I wish him well and trust he will serve Riding Mountain and Canada honorably as we proceed with what looks like a minority government. To the people of Riding Mountain, a special thanks for the increased support I received. During the short campaign period, in all my interactions with the people I met, I was warmly welcomed and treated with respect. As for what's next for Dan Mazier, he noted to the Minnedosa crowd that he is ready to get right back to work. Tonight we celebrate. Tomorrow the real work begins. Thank you, Riding Mountain, for believing in our future. Let's get to work together. And also on that page, the future of democracy. Neepawa Middle School, along with many other schools across the region, participated in democracy on Monday, April 28th, as they held a student vote. The event included 37 schools throughout the Riding Mountain electoral district and featured students voting for the candidates after studying each platform. For Neepawa Middle School, 387 votes were cast. The specific results for each school were not announced, but the combined totals from the 37 schools saw Dan Mazier elected with 854 votes. Liberal candidate Terry Hayward finished second with 339 votes. Other results included Andy Maxwell, NDP, with 320 votes, Liz Clayton, Green, 270 votes, and Jim Oliver, Peoples, 89 votes. On page 2, Neepawa Chamber preps for 10th Annual Fair by Casper Warehan. A weekend full of fun is coming to Neepawa this month. From May 23rd to 25th, the town will become a hub of activity as it hosts the annual Neepawa and District Chamber Fair. According to Chamber President Ali Potrebka, preparations for the 2025 fair are going very well and enthusiasm is prevalent. We are excited to bring back events and have new community groups join us in this year's festivities, said Potrebka. Potrebka added, we are excited to bring back select shows midway and their numerous rides for kids of all ages. While a full itinerary isn't available to the public at this time, there were some early details able to be shared. In addition to the midway provided by select shows, the weekend's activities will also include attractions and events such as pony rides, the reptile gardens, food trucks, and returning annual events from CATS TNR, Neepawa Legion, Enns Brothers, and the Neepawa Garden Club. We're excited for Rotary, the New Wave Neepawa, to host a color run, and the Spring Fever bike races to be happening that weekend too, said Potrebka. A full list of events will be released in advance of the fair so people can plan their weekend. This year is also a special occasion in that it will be the 10th edition of the annual fair. Neepawa and District Chamber of Commerce is proud to host the 10th Annual Chamber Fair. It has become an event the community looks forward to every year, and we're happy that it has grown into a weekend of celebration for the community at large, said Potrebka. We hope everyone will come out and take in the games, rides, and food and make this a weekend to remember. Potrebka also noted that volunteer help to aid in making the event a success is always welcome. We encourage chamber members and the public to support the fair through volunteerism and help us create a fun and safe event for everyone attending, said Potrebka. We have 2-hour shifts available throughout the weekend, which help to keep the grounds clean and organized for attendees. Those who are able and willing to lend a helping hand are asked to sign up by contacting the Neepawa and District Chamber of Commerce via email at info@neepawachamber.com. Sweet Times as Maple Syrup Celebrated in McCreary by Joshua Jackson. One of the highlights of the festival was the DeRosier's Yummy Stuff stand, where attendees mixed maple taffy with snow to create a delectable treat for all to enjoy. And another picture, during the McCreary Maple Syrup Festival, the Burroughs Trail Arts Council hosted a farmers market where local vendors had a chance to sell their merchandise to festival goers. The town of McCreary was alive with activity on April 26th and 27th as they marked the 13th anniversary of the beloved Maple Syrup Festival, which celebrates local culture, tradition, and the sweet bounty of the Manitoba maple. The Maple Syrup Festival featured many activities, like a sugar bush walking tour, which taught patrons how local producers harvest sap from the Manitoba maple tree, a market packed with vendors, and Indigenous workshops such as beading, traditional medicine, and pemmican making. The event also made sure attendees left with a full stomach, including a pancake breakfast, maple syrup dessert competition, and maple syrup on snow. The festival rolled out an impressive lineup of music over the 2 days, including selections from the Asham Stompers, the Megan Bradley Memorial Steppers, Cameron Campbell, the Anderson Trio, and Chantal Crevilla. One of the event organizers, Pam Little, said it was a success. People came from all over Manitoba to enjoy and learn at a Manitoba maple bush. Festival goers were happy with good food, fun, and music all weekend. Little thanks to the volunteers and sponsors who made the festival happen. Carry On and Don't Lose Faith, Right in the Center by Ken Waddell. After Monday's federal election, there were some very tired people across Canada. The TV commentators and staff were up long past their usual bedtime, and it showed. One older TV personality was almost nodding off in their chair. So was I, and I didn't even work that hard on Monday. The politicians and their staff and volunteers had an extremely difficult few weeks, and it was obvious that everybody was tired of politics. Add to that the murder by vehicle in Vancouver on the weekend, and Monday ended a week of death, turmoil, and animosity and overall weariness. The Liberals won the election. 2 leaders lost their seats, and Canada is faced with possibly 4 more years of Liberal rule. The previous 10 have not been all that good for Canada. The Canadian voters opted for an experienced Liberal Party, but by the slimmest of margins. All this was overshadowed by the American President Donald Trump, who seems determined to be heading the United States into disaster. The theme of the Canadian election was who will be best equipped to cope with Trump when there are many other problems, including pressure from China and other countries and many wars abroad. Add to that, Canada is under a drug, poverty, and healthcare crisis that has not been experienced in the last 3 generations. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh lost his seat and will shortly be, but perhaps only temporarily, out of the political picture. Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre lost his seat and has to retrench, find another seat, and amidst all that distraction, prepare a shadow cabinet and mount an opposition to Prime Minister Carney and the Liberals. Who Carney chooses as a cabinet will be interesting, as most of the old Trudeau cabinet is re-elected and will likely march back into their offices within a week. I think there are some things to be learned from the past couple of months. Canada has to deal first with drugs, crime, and mental health issues, and they are all intertwined in a horrible, messy web. Pierre Poilievre was right in many things, but was most correct on this issue. It doesn't matter if you are on drugs, are mad at society, have been used and abused, and are suffering from mental illness. It does not give you the right to hurt or kill other people. Prevention, yes. Treatment, yes. Even sympathy. But people who are unable to control their harm-filled actions belong in custody for their own sake and for the sake of others. Canadians have to learn how to trade both within and outside Canada. For far too long, we have ridden the north-south 4-lane highway. Trump thinks he can get along without us. We should do all we can to help with that theory as we explore markets both inside and outside Canada. Please note, I am all for electric cars as long as they are cheap, practical, and without any subsidies from the taxpayers. Just remember, when you buy an EV now, we are all helping you pay for it, and that is simply wrong. In short, we all need to take a day or two of reflection and get back to work. Canadians are strong, and God is stronger than us or Trump. It's spring, the grass is green, crops are being planted. Have faith for the future, and at least let us be wise in how we face our future. Homebodies by Rita Friesen. Gather strength and become brave. By the time you are reading this, I will be on my way to a beloved isle, the Isle of Iona. I have been there once before, and God willing, this may not be my last pilgrimage to the sacred land. It is a thin space, a place where the distance between heaven and earth is but a vapor. In the company of a dear friend and the spirits of generations of godly people, it is a place to regroup, to gather strength, and become brave. The island is not the only place that offers such a refuge. On a whim, I picked up a copy of compiled Homebodies, and the one musing sums up finding my peace. It's one of my white nights. Well after midnight, the house is silent. I can't still the phantoms that torment my mind. I slip undetected from beneath the warm covers, pull a pair of fleecy sweats over my pajamas, and slip into the comforting dark. It's a queer night. The fog is heavy enough to obscure the house before I've walked 100 yards, and yet the amber yard light of a neighbor half mile away fills the sky with a subdued warmth that a small town usually radiates. No stars are visible, but it's not dark. A quiet so deep and solid that one can sense it. The fog is so intense that one can feel the droplets forming on exposed face and fingers. I wonder fleetingly if coyotes are out and about on a night like this. The enclosed solitude is too precious to forgo. In this strange ethereal world, I am alone and strong. I pace away from hearth and home, gaining strength with each stride. I commune with God, rant and rave at the injustices of life, and howl out my frustrations with circumstances. Relieved by and from all that, I slow down enough to listen. I hear with my heart and know that I have been understood. New ideas for coping infiltrate my mind, and small signs of positive changes I'd missed surface. Then, basking in this regained peace, I turn to thoughts of thanks. In all of my hurts and hungers, there are things to be thankful for. The greatest is the loving and caring of my Heavenly Father. I take note of my surroundings, a little farther than I'd planned to go. The natural fog rules unabated, but the fog of my mind and soul has disappeared. So I turn, and turn willingly, back to all that I had so frantically fled. Those words were recorded decades ago. They take me right back to that night. I am reminded of the many times I have wrestled with God, most times the loser. But in losing, I win. For me, there is a solace in the wideness and wildness of creation, a place where I am stilled and listening. Honestly, I supposed that obedience and hearing would become easier as I mature. I was wrong. The areas of my concern have certainly changed. The goodness and surety of God have not. Faithfully Yours by Neil Stroshine. The End of an Era. As I write these words, Roman Catholics around the world have just said their final farewells to Pope Francis, who died at 7:35 a.m. Easter Monday at the age of 88. His official cause of death was listed as a cerebral stroke, followed by heart failure. He spent Easter Sunday with the people who had come to St. Peter's Square in Rome for Mass, delivered the Urbi and Orbi blessing, then returned to his apartment, where he died. His was a papacy of firsts. He was the first pope from South America, the first to be born and raised outside of Europe, and the first Jesuit to lead the Roman Church. When elected, Francis thought his time as pope might be 2 or 3 years at most. God blessed him with a 12-year pontificate, during which time, in word and deed, he made a powerful impact on religious and political leaders from all parts of the world. He was known and respected for his humility, his concern for the poor, and taking a less formal approach to the papacy than his predecessors. In 2022, he spoke with members of Canada's Indigenous community and apologized for the Church's role in the harm done to children in residential schools. His words were welcomed by many as a positive step in the process of reconciliation and healing. He was a firm supporter of government actions to battle climate change. He adamantly opposed the death penalty in all circumstances. He sought to make the Church more inclusive by granting women full membership in the dicasteries of the Roman Curia. He called for greater sympathy for LGBTQ people, a move that angered many who accused him of departing from long-standing Catholic doctrine and tradition. He did not approve of Israel's actions in Gaza and was not afraid to tell the world how he felt, even if, by doing so, he alienated some international political leaders. Now the world is waiting to see who will be chosen as the next pope. In this election, despite what you may hear or read, there are no favorites. There are no front runners. 135 cardinal electors, members of the College of Cardinals, under the age of 80, will make that decision behind closed doors. They will spend time talking, praying, and voting to discern who God is calling to take on this critical role in their church. I have no doubt that they will take their role very seriously, as they should. Our world desperately needs spiritual leaders who will faithfully preach the gospel, call out sin in all its forms, and urge people to repent and believe in Jesus Christ. He is the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through him. John 14:6. We need leaders who will not be afraid to uphold God's standards of righteousness and holiness, and who will show us how sin and selfishness have made us unrighteous and unholy people who deserve God's wrath. And we need leaders who have the courage to tell us how God expects us to address the social, political, economic, and moral problems our country faces, and who will warn us of the consequences we will face if we fail to take God's instructions seriously. May God rise up faithful leaders like I've just described, not just for Roman Catholics, but for all denominations, and may he work through them to bring our nation and all peoples of our world to belief in God and salvation through Jesus Christ. Devotion, Whose Image is This? By Reverend Vlad Makiev, First Baptist Church. When Jesus Christ began his public ministry in Israel, there was an ongoing debate between different groups of people. Who owned humans and their labor? Jesus, God in human flesh, was teaching for 3 years that people belonged to God and therefore owed God their devotion and service. The Roman Empire made an equal claim that people belonged to the empire, to the state, to the emperor. In the Gospel of Matthew 22:17, Jesus received a question from his enemies. Is it lawful to give a tax to Caesar or not? It was a clear attempt to trap Christ and create a conflict between his kingdom and the Roman Empire. Eventually, sooner or later, we come to this very question. Who is in charge of all things? Human governments or God? Isaiah 33:22, For Yahweh is our judge, Yahweh is our lawgiver, Yahweh is our king, he will save us. The Legacy Standard Bible. Philippians 2:10-11, so that at the name of Jesus every knee will bow, of those who are in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and that every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. The earthly kingdoms serve a very limited purpose for a designated time. Before giving you Jesus' answer to the question in Matthew 19:17, let me warn you of 2 common extremes many folks have in this life. 1, the government is responsible to feed us, educate us, house us, and provide us for our health care and retirement. Socialism, communism. 2, the government is bad and should be limited or abolished. Anarchy. The biblical view of the government is given to us in Romans 13:1-7. It is not bad, but is to be limited, to protect the citizens who do good and punish those who do wrong. Now back to the question in Matthew 19:17. Is it lawful to give a tax to Caesar or not? Jesus' answer was incredible. Matthew 19:20-21, whose likeness and inscription are this. They said to him, Caesar's. Then he said to them, therefore render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. Now whose image is stamped on us? Here is the answer in Genesis 1:27. And God created man in his own image, in the image of God. He created him. Male and female, he created them. As humans, we are in God's image, and we need to render our beings to his service and ownership. The day is coming soon when every wicked ruler of every nation will flee in terror into caves and dens, asking for rocks and hills to fall on them and hide them from the wrath of God. Revelation 6:15-17. Every earthly king will stand before his Creator, and only those who submitted to the rule and reign of Jesus Christ in this life will have the opportunity to rule and reign with him in his glorious kingdom. So the question for today is, do you have the image and name of Jesus stamped on your life? Are you ready to meet him, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords? Be prepared. He is coming soon. Revelations 22:20b. Yes, I am coming quickly. Amen. Come, Lord Jesus. The Market Report by Blaine Houston. Right when we think we have seen the highs, things get higher. Supply and demand is definitely still holding this market and driving it higher. At the April 19th market, it didn't seem to matter whether the cattle were heavier or lighter. All weight classes sold higher than I believe we have ever seen. Cattle that will be fit for grass or breeding are selling very strong. We saw more cattle than we anticipated this week, but with these prices, more pens are being emptied than being filled. The cattle are still in demand, and I expect to see supply start to run even shorter as we get closer to sending cattle to grass. We sold 1,428 head of cattle through the ring in Gladstone on Tuesday. The cattle futures have been steady to slightly stronger. Cows and bulls sold with soaring demand. Feeding type cows and heiferettes are still selling strong. High yielding cows still traded from 205 to 2.28. Feeding type cows are ranging between 220 to 245. Bulls traded steady, 233 to 245. Some highlights from the sale. Black steers weighed 456, traded for 681 per pound. Black steers weighed 567 and traded for 590. Fancy red exotic steers weighed 627 and brought 549.50. Red and tans hided steers weighed 853 and they checked out at 410. Heifers, black heifers, weighed 470 and traded for 571. A ring full of crossbred heifers weighed 504 and made 565. Black heifers weighed 776 and cashed in for 424. Last but not least, a heavy set of Charlet 824-pound heifers sold for 408.25. Out of Helen's Kitchen, dowsing. Dowsers, also known as diviners or water witchers, have been around for years. In the Atlas Mountains of North Africa, the French discovered cave paintings believed to be 9,000 years old. One of these cave paintings showed a man using a dowsing rod. Pictures like these have showed up on rock carvings as well. An explanation of dowsing is that because water gives off magnetic energy, the dowser acts like a radio transmitter, picks up this energy. Dowsing is an age-old practice and used to locate hidden water and minerals with little more than a simple metal rod, a branch, or a pendulum to tap into the energy. Dowsers are able to determine more than just location of water. They often can report its volume, depth, and flow direction. The practice involves walking a property while holding the dowsing tool. Very little equipment is used for dowsing. My dad used a newly cut Y-shaped piece of red willow branch. When holding the branch, you hold it loosely in your hands. The branch pulls down when water is found. The pull of the branch can be extremely strong. I have experienced the bark of the branch being peeled from the branch beneath my hands when I held onto it too tightly. Some use two L-shaped pieces of metal wire rods. The rods are held in your hands with the longer sections parallel and pointing straight ahead. The wires cross when water is found. A pendulum, which is an object hung from a string, can be used as well. I have never seen this method used, although it is used by many. Many dowsers, past and present, were subject to ridicule and skepticism. Many scientists remain uncertain of dowsing because of lack of proof in how it works. Despite this, many armies used dowsers. General Patton used a water dowser to find water in the African desert when the retreating Germans had destroyed the water wells. When the war was over, dowsers were used to find buried shells. It was noted that while the shells were underground, they were able to tell if the shells were German shells or Allied shells. These dowsers were able to help restore many acres of land back to be farmed. Over the years, the Canadian Ministry of Agriculture has had dowsers on staff. Evelyn Penrose was hired by the BC government to locate oil and water resources. During 1931 to 1932, she located 392 water wells for homesteaders. Every major pipeline has dowsers employed, as do oil and mining companies. Countless dowsers along the globe have been finding water, gold, oil, artifacts, and more. Many who dowse can also dowse for ancient artifacts. Many old churches, burial sites, and battlefield grounds have been found this way. England's Major General James Scott Elliot was well known for his interest in dowsing. He was the president of the British Society of Dowsers, and in 1977 he wrote a book on the topic, Dowsing One Man's Way. Scott Elliot was unusual in that much of his dowsing was done with a pendulum over a map. His preference was locating minerals, ancient sites, oil, gas, cables, and lost objects. He found many ancient ruins, including Roman Punic remains from the 1st century and Bronze Age fire pits. Scientists have declared that while it is not possible to deny the existence of the power, its nature cannot be determined. For dowsers, they do not know how it works, but they know that it does, and that is enough for them. I do not need a red willow branch to find my rhubarb coming up in my garden. This hardy plant is made for the Canadian winters, as it needs a long dormant winter period, which we certainly have. It is a plant, it and forget it plant, and carries on for years unaffected by droughts, bugs, and blights. Today's rhubarb cake recipe will have you ready for the soon-to-come rhubarb. It's incredibly easy recipe to make, and it comes out moist and full of rhubarb flavor. Grief is a personal experience. Your Listening Ear by Dulcie Martin. Grief is a personal experience. Physically, it is a heavy feeling, an emptiness and a sense that a part of you is missing. It comes in waves like contractions, a searing pain when you least expect it and when you most expect it. Emotionally, you feel disconnected, and some feel numb. Others feel very connected, with strong emotions ranging from depressing lows to anxiety and panic attacks to complete numbness. A mental fog and mental fatigue resulting in low motivation to feeling completely overwhelmed by all your thoughts. All of these symptoms may manifest along with significant appetite and sleep disturbances, as well as disruptions to the immune system. Those grieving often isolate themselves and shut others out. They do not seek connection and can have trouble managing anything other than their basic needs. Grief is a transformative experience, causing intense personal change because it shakes the foundation of how we understand ourselves and the world around us. Most often, the grief process is associated with death. Yes, this is a form of grief, but grief can apply to many kinds of losses. It can mean loss of your personal identity, like one that comes with motherhood or stopping a loved hobby. It can come from a loss of a relationship, like in divorce, or a best friend moving away. It can even come from a change in social location, like losing money. Loss challenges a person's identity because a part of our identity that was connected to that person or event is now gone. Everyone grieves differently. The process is fluid, with different intensities of feelings of grief that vary over differing time periods. It is a common misconception that if you are grieving, you don't have the ability to experience moments of joy. If you do experience said joy, you must feel ashamed because you aren't expressing the proper amount of grief. Everyone who is grieving has the capability of experiencing moments of joy, even in the very early moments of the grief journey. This joy is healthy and is exactly what is needed to aid the overall integration process. The goal of grief processing is to put yourself back together as a new person who has incorporated the now deceased person into their life. This putting back together is not as fluid as filling up a glass. It's more like putting together a puzzle piece by piece over a long period. It's slow, it's painful, you put a lot of pieces in the wrong place. There may even be pieces from other puzzles in there, but you eventually get there. There are things that you can do to help with processing grief. The first is allowing yourself time to feel. When you feel moments of grief, allow those feelings to come as much as they are needed. Try not to shove them down or away. Second is memorializing the person or event. In the case of death, maybe you are making a memorial table in your home, painting something in their honor, or listening to their favorite music. Finally, it can be very helpful, although challenging, to find meaning in the loss. Some people start foundations in memory of their loved one. Others decide to take on a new interest. You can look for signs of healing. The symptoms of grief, although present, are less intense. An ability to enjoy things without guilt, feeling connection without pain, an increased ability to accept support, and they begin to have interest in others. Healing does not mean forgetting your loved one or ceasing a relationship with your loved one. You change the nature of that relationship and remember them as an invaluable part of your past. Council seeks public input on ward versus at-large elections in Westlake-Gladstone by Joshua Jackson. The municipality of Westlake-Gladstone is mulling over a change in its electoral system. As the municipality heads to the polls for an election in 2026, they posted a notice on their website in search of feedback on whether to host the election at large or by wards. Currently, they use the at-large system, where a councillor is elected by voters across the entire municipality, while a ward councillor is elected by voters in a specific area. The release notes, if the council were to re-implement the ward system, the process needs to begin shortly to have the bylaw in place a minimum of 180 days before the next municipal election. According to Section 88 of the Manitoba Municipal Act, when dividing a municipality into wards and establishing ward boundaries, or in making a change in the number of wards or ward boundaries, a council must try to achieve an approximately equal number of residents in each ward and may take into consideration community or diversity of interests, topographical features, settlement patterns, and population trends. The municipality of Westlake-Gladstone advised that the guidelines and the regulations regarding election by ward systems have changed since amalgamation and may not look like the ward system from before the municipalities of Westlake and Gladstone ratepayers are familiar with. The release stated that depending on population densities in different areas, not all the wards may be the same size or hold the same boundaries as in 2015 when the ward system was used. The municipal council will also be in charge of determining the number of wards for the municipality, which is between 2 and 6. Unlike the last time the municipality used wards, municipalities are not allowed to tax a differential mill rate for different areas or wards. Councillors could be elected by wards if they switch back to that system, but the taxation and budget process will remain at large. The municipality transitioned to a single mill rate in 2023. To have your say on Westlake-Gladstone's electoral system, head to the municipality's website at westlake-gladstone.ca/p/local-notices. Beautiful Plains Archives, the Neepawa Tire opening. Pictured here is a scene from the official opening of Neepawa Tire Sales in 1980 by its new proprietors. The photo is dated to April of that year. A large crowd was in attendance on the day of the event to see the new proprietors mark the opening of the business. Seen at left is Mayor Gary McElman, who took part in the ribbon cutting. The cutting was unique, as the ribbon was an old inner tire tube stretched out by owners Garth Lockerbie and Warren Gillies, center, and former proprietor Bill Uranic, right, assisted by John Dick. The MLA at the time, Jim Ferguson, can be seen in the background looking on with amusement. Neepawa Town Council late April meeting by Owen Devereaux. Aside from the release of its financial plan for 2025, this story appeared in the April 25th edition of the Banner and Press. The town of Neepawa also held its regular council meeting on Tuesday, April 22nd. Councillor Jason Nadeau provided updates from several recent meetings, including the Western Manitoba Regional Library Board. He shared that the number of engagements at the Neepawa Library went up about 24% from February to March. Other notable items from Western Manitoba Regional Library included to completion of its strategic plan for 2025 to 2029 and the loss of grant money that was set aside for the purchase of a bookmobile. Plans to purchase a vehicle are still a go, although the board will need to explore other avenues for raising the money, including sponsorship. Another recent meeting Nadeau attended was for Westlake Employment Skills and Services. He clarified details on nurses' training and the inability to transfer training credits from a different province to Manitoba. Westlake has also brought up the potential of working with the town of Neepawa on occupying the training center for the one-year hiatus that will happen between the Assiniboine College practical nursing program commitments. Finally, Nadeau attended a Rossburn Subdivision Trail Association meeting and provided information on tree planting plans for along the trail. Councillor Yvonne Sisley noted that day camp registrations open April 28th. As for April 22nd, there had been 412 swimming lesson registrations, 300 campground bookings, and 2 first aid recertification courses held on April 24th and 25th. Sisley concluded by stating that a spring trail cleanup day for the community has been scheduled for May the 30th. Councillor Marika Kostenchuk offered details from the Home Assistant Neepawa and District's hand last meeting. The community meal program is going well as it provides between 20 to 21 meals per day, excluding to 50 meals that are assembled each month for the senior social afternoon. The Community Volunteer Income Tax Program will continue until May 2nd. So far, 55 clients have used the service. Deputy Mayor and Councillor Murray Parrott shared details on a few functions he recently attended on behalf of the community, including a meeting with a land developer and the local Rotary Club. Manager of Operations Denny Saquette offered Council an update on the repair and fill of potholes this spring. He noted that first indications suggest that the issue is not as bad as it had been in 2024. Nonetheless, preparations are underway for cold patch fixes. The rental of an asphalt patcher has been arranged. It will be used for 2 sessions, with the first of these starting May 5th. It will be in use for between 4 and 6 weeks. A second period of use has also been booked for the fall. New staff have been hired by the town and are getting their certifications updated. Meanwhile, summer staff is scheduled to begin on May 5th. The draft documents have been received for the Hamilton Street extension planned for Neepawa's East End and is being reviewed. Neepawa has received notice from the Minister of Environment and Climate Change that it has been approved for recycling rebate for the period of July to December in the amount of $12,778.76. To go along with an invite from the Home Assistance Neepawa District to attend their annual general meeting on May 30th, issues related to the Yellowhead Manor were also brought to Council's attention. Specifics were not shared publicly other than that they are related to safety concerns and Manitoba housing. Details have been sent to the province to bring it to their attention as well. The Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure has notified the town of the distribution of $4,800 to aid in the maintenance of Neepawa Municipal Airport. Neepawa Rotary honors local citizens. Paul Harris Fellowships presented by Ken Waddell. The Rotary Club of Neepawa, District 5550, held their annual Paul Harris Banquet at Neepawa's Legion Hall on April 24th. Master of Ceremonies was Wayne Jacobson, Neepawa Rotary past president and district governor-elect. The supper was served by the Neepawa Legion Ladies Auxiliary, and entertainment was provided by Kelwood-based folk singer Rob Waddell. The program included a pin presentation to Rotarian Ron Nordstrom and several other Paul Harris Fellowships. Paul Harris was the founder of Rotary International. Individual fellowships were presented to Beatrice Betts, sponsored by Rotarian Dave Bennett, for her tireless community work. For a similar community commitment, a fellowship was presented to John Drinkwater, who was sponsored by Rotarian Bob Durston. The club fellowship was presented to Darren Rowe, who was introduced by Rotarian Murray Newton. Rowe was recognized for his decades of work as a youth basketball coach in the Neepawa community. The Tony Otten Award was presented to Rotarian Pam Miller by Ron Nordstrom. The Otten Award is funded from a donation fund set up by the late Tony Otten, a Rotarian and Neepawa businessman. The Paul Harris funds raised by the members and the club sponsoring and the fellowship goes to a fund that is used to support Rotary projects locally and around the world. Rotary Club gets a peek at Project 320 by Joshua Jackson. The town of Neepawa were guests at the Neepawa Rotary Club's bi-weekly meetings and peeled back the curtain on its newest endeavor, Project 320. In 2024, the town purchased 320 acres of land on the northwestern fringe of Neepawa for future development, and earlier this year introduced Phase 1 of Project 320, which will utilize 58 of those acres directly adjacent to existing buildings. Neepawa's CAO, Colleen Sinchishan, said the town completed a study on the shortage of housing units, and the town needs 460 new dwelling units by 2028. We are the third largest growing community in Canada and the third largest in Manitoba, she said. When we say the third largest in Manitoba, we also like to throw in the caveat: we are the only town on that list that doesn't have the core of Winnipeg help its growth. Neepawa hoped to secure funds from the Canadian Housing and Mortgage Corporation's Housing Accelerator Fund, but that fell through. We reached out to everyone in Neepawa's core and beyond, and we said in a letter, anybody interested in developing a property for any reason in Neepawa, we would like to talk to you. We didn't say at that time we wanted specifically development or buy it. We said, come talk to us. Neepawa was ambitious enough to make this happen, as they did with the CN development. A group of owners who had owned the land came to the town, offered to sell what is now the spot of Project 320. Sinchishan said the town is working to get a little triangle of land on the proposed subdivision in their possession and get it titled. She noted that it's at the lawyer's office getting signed, and then they will file the bigger subdivision for the other acres. The hesitancy of not filing it doesn't mean we're not working on it. Having done the CN subdivision, we know exactly what they'll tell us. We know exactly what we're required to do. We're a good % of the way on sewer and water. We've talked to highways, and we're doing a traffic impact plan and a drainage plan. When we put that subdivision application in, all of those things that took all of the time during the CN subdivision, roughly 3 years, half of that will go away. We can pull this off in no better than a year. Director of Operations Denny Saquette noted how much housing the first phase of 58 acres will contain. We ended up having 192 single-family homes, and if we look at the multifamily portion of that, I think we can maximize out at 220-ish. That's assuming we fill every square inch of the multifamily lots, said Saquette. There is a pretty big rectangle in the southeast corner, and we have 2 big blocks west of Neepawa Plumbing and Heating, which could be turned into apartment blocks. For the development, there will not be commercial opportunities, and it will be strictly residential to attain Neepawa's housing needs. This is phase 1, but this phase is broken into 3 components. We'll see how uptake goes starting from east to west, and then we'll move on to the northern side of the forested areas that we're going to leave as green space. So 3 phases within the first phase, and if we fill that up, we'll have to stretch into the next 320 and see what's out there. A large photo, Neepawa and Area Wildlife Association recognized in Winnipeg. The Neepawa Area Wildlife Association members John Lavich, Mike Kirkwich, Perry Snedden, and Jim Richards attended the provincial general meeting and came home with the Affiliated Club of the Year award. On Saturday morning, April 27th, 4 members of the Neepawa Wildlife Association ventured off to Winnipeg to the Manitoba Wildlife Federation general meeting. 4 club members, Jim Richards, Perry Snedden, Mike Krukowicz, and John Lavich attended. The local group reported that it was a very informative meeting with dialogue from different regions and clubs. They had presentations from the Natural Resources Branch, Fisheries in Manitoba, Wildlife, various local branches. The MWF groups are all working towards the same cause, to enhance wildlife education. Along with the activities, various awards were handed out to individuals and clubs. To the local group's surprise, the Neepawa Wildlife Association was awarded the Affiliated Club of the Year. Local association spokesman Perry Snedden said, "This is a great honor and feather in our club's hat for the work we do for our area and youth." The delegation attended the town hall meeting as well and listened to issues from different views, which opens everyone's eyes, he said. All in all, it was a great day with lots of laughs, and we are very proud to be a member of Neepawa Wildlife Association. Hats off to everyone, and keep up the good work. Rosedale Farm Trail Enhancement Project completed, submitted by the Trail Committee. The Rosedale Farm Trail Committee is pleased to announce the completion of the Trail Enhancement Project begun in 2021. A grant from Trails Manitoba provided the opportunity to start this multi-year improvement project. With the help from many local groups, the trail has been enhanced for everyone to enjoy in all seasons, whether on foot, bicycle, or snowshoes. The trail was widened in some places for easier navigation. Gravel was spread over exposed tree roots and in low-lying wet areas for greater accessibility to a variety of users. The gravel was provided by the RM of Rosedale and hauled by Baker Backhoe. 3 new picnic tables have been installed in strategic spots. People can rest, hydrate, enjoy some snacks, and soak up the natural beauty all around. Men's Shed built the tables, and the committee set them in place with ground cloth and gravel provided by the RM of Rosedale. The finishing touch is the new interpretative signage along the trail. Signs at points of interest illustrate the history and legacy of the area, as well as the conservation features of Rosedale Farm. Signs also identify a variety of trees and the date the stand was originally planted. The new signage was sponsored by White Mud Watershed Conservation District and created by Provost Signs. The Trail Committee volunteered many hours of labor and the small equipment to improve the trail. We are very grateful for the financial help we received from Trails Manitoba and from all the local organizations that supported us in the improvement of the trail. We hope you take the opportunity to get out and enjoy this beautiful local trail with its varied terrain and spectacular scenery. It is a gem. To get there, travel 16 kilometers north of Neepawa on Highway number 5 to Eden. Turn left onto PR number 265 and travel 8 kilometers to the parking lot on the north or right side of the road. Happy walking or biking or snowshoeing. $1,120 raised for Neepawa Pocket Park by Casper Wareham. A local initiative can officially be marked a sweet success. This past Saturday, the final donut orders in support of the Gillen Schmall Dream Ride Park were taken in. In total, 160 dozen donuts were sold over the course of the fundraiser. Gary Forg, co-organizer of Neepawa's Dream Ride with Marcia Forg, told the Banner and Press that a $7 profit is received from each dozen. This means the final total of funds raised is approximately $1,120. Thank you to everyone who came out and supported us. We can't wait to see you on May 10th for the pickup day. With this fundraiser concluded, the Forgs and all the helping hands involved in the project are now looking forward to the next steps. We're hoping to get working on the fences for the pocket parks as soon as the warm weather holds and all the utilities are marked off, said Gary. The Gillenschmal Dream Ride Park will be an accessible community space located in the empty partial lot beside Gillenschmal in Neepawa. The Neepawa Banner and Press looks forward to sharing further news on this communal development as it comes to fruition. Center of the paper is the Home and Garden section. There's an article on spring lawn revitalization, an article on perennials to consider for your garden this year, and many ads announcing the opening of garden centers locally. Neepawa Karate wins in Winnipeg. Neepawa Transitional Shotokan Karate, the Neepawa Karate Club, was at the 2025 Nationals held in Winnipeg this past weekend. The age 14 to 17 female group secured a gold, silver, and bronze, and the adults yellow-green group pictured above took gold and bronze. Congratulations to the club on the recent success. College commitment announced for Neepawa Titans alum Braden Knox by Joshua Jackson. The Neepawa Titans have announced their first player advancement from the 2024-2025 season. Forward Braden Knox has committed to playing hockey for the Royal Military College of Canada, Paladins. The Royal Military College of Canada is based out of Kingston, Ontario. The team is a member of the Ontario University Athletics Conference and competes in U Sports, the national sports governing body for the universities in Canada. Knox, the 21-year-old, whose hometown is Carberry, registered 4 seasons in the MJHL. He first played with the OCN, now Northern Manitoba Blizzard, in 2021-2022, registering 39 games played and 6 points for the club. Knox then came over to play for the Titans, where he became a mainstay in the squad for 3 seasons from 2022 to 2025. In those 3 years, Knox amassed 135 games with the club, logging 6 goals and 19 assists, totaling 25 points. Congratulations to Braden and the best of luck in his next chapter. Play Ball, Santa Clara Baseball releases schedule by Joshua Jackson. The Santa Clara Baseball League has released its schedule for the upcoming season. The league will comprise of 6 teams this year. The Austin A's, Carberry Royals, Neepawa Cubs, Minnedosa Mavericks, Plumas Pirates, and Portage Padres. Each team will play a 15-game schedule, with Neepawa playing 8 home games and 7 on the road. The league's opening night is set for Wednesday, May 14th, when all 6 teams will be in action. Neepawa hosts Carberry, Plumas visits Minnedosa, and Austin begins their season against Portage. One difference this year is that the Austin A's baseball diamond is undergoing resurfacing, so the club will play its season of games on the road. Last year's league play saw the Portage Padres take the championship after defeating the Plumas Pirates. The Neepawa Cubs, meanwhile, finished the regular season in 2nd place with a 9-4-2 record. You can find the full league schedule at ballcharts.com/team/?team equals SCBL. Minnedosa couple wins $30,000. The excitement was palpable on Thursday, April 24th, 2025, as Sunrise Credit Union officially wrapped up its 30 grand in your hand contest with a celebratory check presentation at its Minnedosa branch. Local members Troy Johnson and Cassie Peak were awarded the grand prize, a check for $30,000. Longtime members of Sunrise Credit Union, Johnson and Peak, expressed their surprise and gratitude upon receiving the $30,000 prize. With the purchase of their new home, the couple has various projects they want to complete and shared that the prize money will go to good use. Jordan Brown, a loans officer at Sunrise Credit Union, played a key role in helping Johnson and Peak secure their mortgage. Reflecting on their recent contest win, Brown shared how meaningful the experience was. It reinforces why we do what we do, to help our members achieve their financial goals. The 30 Grand in Your Hand contest ran from March the 2nd to April 12th, offering an exciting incentive for new residential mortgage customers. Every qualifying mortgage approved during the 6-week period earned an entry for a chance to win $30,000. Pictured left to right are Jordan Brown, Loans Officer, Sunrise Credit Union, Cassie Peak, Troy Johnson, and Brad Ross, Member Services, Sunrise Credit Union. A picture from the beautiful Plains Museum, pressing plates. Pictured here is Murray Hunter in 1976. When this photo was taken, Hunter was working on getting a collection of license plates ready to hang. Moments in Riding Mountain, The Miracle of Spring by Ken Kingdon. It's been said many times and in many different ways, yet despite having lived through it for more years than I like to consider, I'm bowled over by the arrival of spring. It's a miracle. Our springs are, of course, a product of our winters, both literally and figuratively. Literally, as without winter, we would simply have summer all year round, just like the tropics. Figuratively, without going through the challenge of long dark nights and frigid temperatures, we wouldn't experience the joy that spring brings us. I feel sorry for the people living in parts of the world that don't get a real taste of winter, as they don't get to savor the feeling that the first day of spring elicits. While the drip of melting snow or the first glimpse of the lawn can make us rejoice, it is the arrival of the first birds of summer that signal the season has returned for good. Fittingly, the earliest of the spring birds are ones we are most familiar with, and their return is like welcoming back old childhood friends. The chirp of robins and the calls of Canada geese and sandhill cranes from overhead trigger relief that winter is over. Even crows are welcome for the first few weeks of spring. Mallards search out the open edges of sloughs, while blackbirds begin to call from their perches on last year's cattail stalks. Juncos in their tuxedo-themed formal wear can be seen hopping on the lawn, searching for morsels left over from the winter bird feeder. Once the sloughs become ice-free and the shallows warm to about 10 degrees centigrade, the frogs awaken from the icy spots where they overwintered, filling the air with their calls, even while patches of ice bob about in the deeper water. The bees from our beehive begin to search afield for sources of pollen, no doubt relieved to be free from the confines of the hive after a long winter. For Ray and me, the signs of spring have been particularly impressionable this year, as we bailed out to Costa Rica in late winter. Many friends and family members have extolled the virtues of this beautiful country, and we are happy to report that it lived up to our expectations. We won't bore you with the details of our travel. However, despite all of the pluses of travel itself, exploring new places, learning about new cultures, and eating new foods, there is a lot of truth in the adage that one of the best things about a voyage is returning home. For example, the joy of sleeping in your own bed cannot be overstated. The second is that visiting other countries broadens the mind and gives you a new perspective on life at home. Ray and I share these sentiments, particularly the latter. For example, several things were immediately apparent after we left the confines of Winnipeg. Firstly, our roads are wide and straight. Secondly, there are a lot of pickup trucks in Western Canada. However, the real eye-opener is the amount and variety of wildlife that we get to enjoy in our backyards. Inevitably, based on our interest in all things wild, Ray and I spend a lot of time in parks and preserves when we travel. Yet spotting wildlife in these places can be hard work. It is much easier to see wild animals here in Manitoba. A few days after our return, I went for a drive. In less than half an hour, I spotted over 50 deer feeding in the fields, a coyote, a couple dozen geese, and a pair of sandhill cranes, all without trying. Even on our backyard, however, we were able to trace the tracks of snowshoe hare, red fox, black bear, and even an otter in the newly fallen snow in mid-April. In our travels, there has been nowhere else that you would expect to see such an abundance of wildlife, with the exception of some parts of Australia or Africa. Even there, it often takes an effort and an experienced guide to see wild things. There are many reasons why we Manitobans can enjoy the natural bounty that we do. Much of it has to do with the privilege of living in a country where we are not forced to exploit every resource available, including wild game. Secondly, our shared love of nature is built on the wisdom and values instilled by previous generations who saw in wildlife a fundamental element that makes Canada, Canada. Going full circle, I'm also convinced that having 4 seasons instills a regard for all things wild. We can commiserate with animals who struggle to survive our winters and rejoice with them as they bring their young into the world each spring. A Costa Rican told us that they have only 2 seasons, the rainy season and summer, when it doesn't rain as much. While we enjoyed the heat, kind of, during our visit, we know that living in a country without 4 seasons isn't for us, which strikes people unfamiliar with cold winters as a little bit nutty. Conversations in many countries we have traveled often start and end with their simplified observation that Canada is cold. It is difficult to convince people that we not only survive, but thrive in such a cold place. I've given up trying to sound rational. How do you explain the beauty of a sunny minus 40 degrees centigrade day, followed immediately by a day of melting snow? Several obituaries this week. Mac Demiduke in Elkwood Manor, Elkhorn, Manitoba. Gwendolyn Evelyn Wishart. A service will be held in Gladstone Cemetery Saturday, May the 10th at 10 a.m. Glenda Lee Reynolds, née Thorpe. A service will be held on Monday, May the 5th, 2025 at 11 a.m. at the Carberry Plains Cemetery in Carberry. Kings late rally forces Game 7 in the Turnbull Cup final. Ryland Gage and Damon Hofer scored with under 4 minutes to play in the 3rd period of Game 6 to rally the Kings past the Blizzard 2-1, forcing a Game 7 in the McMunnon-Yates Turnbull Cup final. Nervous energy filled the building in the opening minutes of Game 6 as each team skated into the first intermission scoreless. Both teams stayed out of the box while the Blizzard held a 4-3 lead on the shot clock. It was one of the same in the 2nd period as both teams battled hard for the puck. Each team would trade chances, but both Cole Sheffield and Tay Timmerman would stand tall, holding the game at 0-0 heading to the 3rd. Just 1 minute into the final 20 minutes, Marlon Edwards jumped on a loose puck in front of the crease and got it over the shoulder of Sheffield to pop the top off the Roy H. Johnston Arena, giving the Blizzard a 1-0 lead. With just under 4 minutes to play, Ryland Gage snuck one by a sprawling Timmerman to tie the game up late for the Kings. The Blizzard would take a late penalty, and at 18:10 of the period, Naaman Hofer's shot would find the back of the net to give the Kings a 2-1 lead. The Blizzard would pull Timmerman for the extra attacker, but that would be all, as the Dauphin Kings would take a big 2-1 win in Game 6 to set the stage for Game 7 of the McMunnon-Yates Turnbull Cup final. Dauphin would go 1-for-1 on the power play, while the Blizzard did not get a man advantage. Cole Sheffield was outstanding once again in the Kings' crease, stopping 27 of 28 in the win, while Timmerman turned aside 25 of 27. Game 7 between the Kings and Blizzard was scheduled for Thursday, May 1st at 7:30 inside at Credit Union Place in Dauphin. A photo by the beautiful Plains Museum of the Neepawa Fire Department. According to information from the Neepawa Banner and Press archives, the fire hall seen in this picture was built in 1881. At that time, it was Neepawa's first school. The building would serve that purpose until 1889, when it was moved to 417 First Avenue with the purpose of being used as the town's first official fire hall. The fire hall predated the beautiful Plains County Court building by 2 years. At some point in time, the words Neepawa Fire Station would be painted above the large twin doors. The first fire hall would serve for a good chunk of years until a new hall was built to replace it in 1952. This hall was used until the current hall was completed in 2019. The individuals pictured in the photo are Jim Dalton, Andy Mitchell, Art Cowland, Chaz Parrott, Bob Christie, Arthur Hetherington, Hed Howard, Jack Manning, and Alf Hayes. The specific year the photo was taken is unknown. The bottom photo shows an unknown individual standing with a trio of fire trucks out front of the Neepawa Fire Department. The specific year for the photo is not known. However, the three-door fire hall partially seen in the background was built in 1951 and used until 2019. Carberry-based organization recognized by legislature. Photo from left, T. Glure, Catherine Arnold, MLA Jody Byram, and Tessa Small McPhee. On Tuesday, April 22nd, local organization Otter Home Incorporated was recognized in the Manitoba legislature by Agassiz MLA Jody Byram for their incredible work in Carberry. Otter Home Incorporated is a modern in-house healing program based in Carberry, Manitoba, focusing on recovery, attachment, and community well-being. They offer a sanctuary where mothers and children can stay together, receiving tailored mental health support, parenting education, and life skills training with the goal of permanent family reunification. A large photo by Christine Waddell, finally in the fields. The late spring has delayed farmers from getting back into the fields and starting their planting of crops for the season. Fortunately, there appears to be some activity beginning out there. Pictured is some preliminary work underway in a field just west of Neepawa on Tuesday, April 29th. A large photo on the back page featuring the cast of Disney's Aladdin Jr. The performances will be May 8th, May 9th, May 10th, a matinee and an evening performance at 7:30, performances at the Roxy Theatre. For more information, call NACI at 204-476-3305, and tickets are available online. And I'm just going to go back to the looking back section. 125 years ago, on May the 2nd, 1900, in Franklin, tenders were being asked for the erection of a manse in our village. The contract will be let the 12th of the month. The price of butter has already fallen to 15 cents in Arden. What will it be later on? 100 years ago, on Friday, May the 1st, 1925, a hidden hole competition is arranged by the Ladies Golf Club for Wednesday, May the 6th at 2:30. A full turnout is expected. In Burnie, Mr. and Mrs. Roberts, who motored here from Regina, Saskatchewan, had a very interesting trip. They had good roads all day, making Moosomin that night. On Thursday, their luck did not hold out. When they reached Fleming, they struck rain and much mud, being stuck for some time on the outskirts of Fleming. By Thursday evening, they got to Brandon without further mishap, spending the night there. On Friday, they got to Carberry at noon, with the rain still pouring. In Carberry, they received no hope of getting to Neepawa, but after waiting a couple of hours, they started out. They struck Neepawa, then took the Union Road to Orange Ridge, within 3 miles of town. There they left the car, borrowed a balky horse, which, with the kind of help a rider met on the way, brought them safely to town about 12:30 at night. That's a trip that now takes about 5 hours. 75 years ago, on Thursday, May the 4th, born at the Neepawa Hospital to Mr. and Mrs. O'Hara, a daughter, Cora Lynn. And 50 years ago, meeting was held in the Kelwood Collegiate by the Burrows Trail Local of the Manitoba Métis Federation to discuss the possibility of establishing a custom abattoir and the construction of prefab homes in the Kelwood area. And that's it for the Neepawa Banner and Press, May the 3rd, 2025.